Taylor Swift's Opalite music video is not just a release, not just a visual accompaniment to a song, but a carefully constructed universe that blends satire, romance, nostalgia, and emotional self-reflection into one of the most talked about pop culture moments of the year. From the very first frame, it becomes clear that this video is designed to be studied, paused, replayed, and debated. Nothing here is accidental. Every color, prop, movement, and casting choice serves a purpose, and together they form a narrative that feels playful on the surface, but deeply introspective underneath. This is not a video meant to wash over you. It's meant to sit with you, to linger, to spark questions long after the final shot fades out. The opening immediately establishes a heightened reality. We're dropped into a glossy, overly cheerful infomercial world where loneliness is treated like a cosmetic flaw rather than a human experience. The exaggerated smiles, bright pastel colors, and artificial lighting all work together to create a sense of emotional disconnect. This world looks perfect, but it feels hollow, and that contrast is essential. Taylor has long explored the idea that appearances can lie, that happiness can be performative, that smiling doesn't always mean fulfillment, and Opalite turns that theme into a literal setting. It's a world that mirrors modern culture, where sadness is something to hide, fix, or monetize, rather than something to understand. Taylor's character is introduced as a woman living in this artificial perfection, but emotionally isolated. Her daily routine is repetitive and empty, structured but soulless, polished but lonely. She wakes up, smiles, performs normalcy, and goes to sleep day after day without connection. Her only companion is a rock. On first watch, the rock seems like a joke, a surreal visual meant to grab attention, but the longer you sit with it, the more symbolic it becomes. The rock is stable, unchanging, and incapable of growth. It doesn't hurt her, but it doesn't love her either. It simply exists. This mirrors relationships that are emotionally dead yet familiar, connections people cling to not because they're fulfilling, but because they're predictable. It's comfort without intimacy, safety without joy. The infomercial itself is a masterclass in satire. Opalite is marketed as a miracle solution, a sparkling substance that promises transformation, love, happiness, and fulfillment in a bottle. The language used to sell it is exaggerated but eerily recognizable. The promise that everything you're missing can be fixed instantly, effortlessly, if you just consume the right thing. This is Taylor critiquing the idea that fulfillment can be purchased, that emotional healing can be outsourced, or that loneliness is something to be erased rather than processed. The pitch borders on absurd, but it never feels realistic because we live in a culture constantly selling us solutions to feelings we haven't been allowed to sit with. The parallel storyline introduces the lonely man, whose life mirrors Taylor's character in structure but differs in emotional texture. His routine is similarly empty, similarly polished, but his companion is a cactus. The cactus is alive, capable of growth, but protected by sharp defenses. It's a brilliant visual metaphor. Where Taylor's rock represents emotional stagnation, the cactus represents emotional guardedness. This is the person who wants connection but fears pain, who keeps people at a distance not because they don't care, but because they care too much. Together, these two characters embody different responses to loneliness. One shuts down completely, the other walls themselves off. When both characters consume Opalite, the world around them begins to shift, but not in a clean, magical, fairy tale way. There's awkwardness, there's discomfort, there's exaggeration that almost feels unsettling. This is important because it rejects the fantasy of instant transformation. Taylor has always been interested in the messy middle of emotional change, the part where growth feels embarrassing, confusing, and uncertain. The visual tone begins to soften, the lighting warms, the camera becomes less rigid. These changes signal internal movement rather than external perfection. Healing here is not glamorous, it's clumsy.
As the narrative expands, secondary characters enter the frame, and each one feels like a different emotional archetype. Some represent hope, some skepticism, some longing, some observation. They don't exist to steal focus, they exist to populate the world. This is a reminder that loneliness doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in crowds, in public spaces, in shared environments where everyone is quietly carrying their own emotional weight. These characters give texture to the story, reminding us that everyone we pass has a private inner life we rarely see. One of the most striking elements of Opalite is its humor. Taylor leans fully into self-awareness, poking fun at herself, her image, and even the expectations placed on her as both a pop star and a cultural figure. This humor isn't defensive, it isn't sarcastic, it's confident. It feels like the humor of someone who knows exactly who they are and no longer feels the need to prove it. By exaggerating tropes, visuals, and emotional beats, Taylor invites the audience to laugh with her, not at her, creating a shared understanding rather than distance. The dance sequence marks a pivotal emotional shift. It's vibrant, joyful, and intentionally nostalgic, pulling visual inspiration from romantic comedies and pop culture touchstones that shaped an entire generation's understanding of love. The choreography isn't about technical perfection, it's about release. Movement becomes a metaphor for emotional freedom, for stepping out of isolation and into connection. Bodies move together, rhythms align, and suddenly the world feels alive. The energy of the scene communicates something words never could. Joy multiplies when it's shared. The mall setting deepens this symbolism. Malls are places of adolescence, identity exploration, first loves, and emotional discovery. They're also spaces of consumerism, where identity is often shaped by what we buy, wear, or consume. By placing so much of the story here, Taylor draws a parallel between emotional reinvention and consumer culture. She subtly asks whether we change because we truly want to, or because we're taught that reinvention is necessary to be worthy of love. As the story progresses, it becomes increasingly clear that Opalite itself isn't the solution, it's the catalyst. The real transformation happens not through magic, but through vulnerability. When the two main characters finally connect, it isn't dramatic or overly romanticized. It's hesitant, it's awkward, it's sincere, and that's exactly why it works. Love here isn't portrayed as a grand gesture or destiny fulfilled. It's portrayed as a quiet moment of bravery, the willingness to let someone see you as you are.
The ending deliberately avoids neat resolution. There's no clear message about whether Opalite truly worked or whether it was all psychological. Instead, the focus remains on emotional openness. This ambiguity is intentional. It allows viewers to bring their own experiences, beliefs, and interpretations into the story. Was the change internal or external? Was the magic real or was belief enough? Taylor refuses to answer these questions, trusting the audience to find meaning where they need it most. What elevates Opalite beyond a standard music video is its respect for the viewer. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't rush. It doesn't force emotion. It invites reflection rather than demanding reaction. Fans who analyze every frame are rewarded with layers of symbolism, while casual viewers can still enjoy the charm, humor, and emotional arc without needing to decode anything. That balance is rare, and it speaks to Taylor's growth as a visual storyteller. The public reaction mirrors this depth. Viewers didn't just watch the video, they connected to it. People shared personal stories, emotional responses, and interpretations. Some saw themselves in the rock, others in the cactus. Some felt seen by the loneliness, others inspired by the hope. The video became less of a product and more of a shared emotional experience, a conversation happening across screens, timelines, and comment sections. Critically, Opalite feels like a culmination rather than a departure. It doesn't abandon earlier themes or aesthetics, it integrates them. The romantic optimism, the self-awareness, the introspection, and the storytelling all coexist here. This isn't reinvention for the sake of shock, it's evolution through understanding. Taylor isn't erasing her past, she's building on it. There's also a growing sense that Opalite is only the beginning of a larger narrative. Visual motifs, unresolved emotional questions, and recurring symbols suggest that this world may expand. Taylor has always played the long game, planting seeds that don't bloom until much later, and fans are already watching closely for what comes next. At its core, Opalite is about the deeply human desire to change without pain, to love without risk, and to be happy without vulnerability. Taylor doesn't judge that desire, she empathizes with it, and then she gently reminds us that real connection requires courage, discomfort, and honesty. Growth isn't something you buy, it's something you choose again and again. That's why this video resonates so strongly. It doesn't just entertain, it reflects. It holds up a mirror to loneliness, longing, hope, and the quiet bravery it takes to believe that something better is possible. And in doing so, Taylor Swift once again proves that she isn't just making music, she's creating emotional worlds, inviting us inside, and trusting us to find ourselves within them. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.